Hey there. If you can count on up to 2 hands the number of times that you've used AI, there's a decent chance that you'll get something out of this video. But before we get started, I want to make it clear what this is. I've been talking about AI to a lot of different people over the last year, since the release of ChatGPT, basically. And on February 8th, Google released Gemini in Canada. I've had my eye on this for a while, back when it was Google Bard, and I have a lot to say about it, and I don't really feel like repeating myself too often, so I figured I might as well do this publicly. Now, to contextualize what I have to say about Google Gemini, it's important to talk about my experience with ChatGPT over the last year. And I want to begin by making it clear what versions of ChatGPT that I was using. I was basically using the vanilla version. I was impressed by ChatGPT for what it is, but not enough to pay like 20 bucks a month for it. And it turns out that later a browser plugin that I pay for anyway added an AI console. So through that console, I have a window into a presumably better version of the free version of OpenAI anyway. And what I like about the console in that plugin is that it's much more terse than ChatGPT is. I forget when exactly they added this feature, but I've been using it that way as well. And for the last week or so, I signed up for NotionAI, which is actually fantastic. However, the concept of having notes that can help me write them is too new to me, so I haven't fully grokked how this would affect my workflow. So let's rewind to late 2022 and most of 2023 in the wake of ChatGPT and how I've been using it. All of this was strongly influenced by my first few experiences with the free version and experiences since then. Some best practices that I've built through experience with it involve not giving it generic questions. You really want to give it the context behind why you're asking it to write what you want it to write. And the other thing is, if you're using it to help you write something, I would rather have it write multiple versions of it so that I could pick and choose. But I found that using it for anything more advanced than that, you run into its limitations. The main one is it has the memory of a goldfish. I've been mainly using ChatGPT to write the descriptions for videos. And I remember this one time where, as I always do, I asked it to write 3 versions, and then the output made me realize that it had misunderstood one of the things in my question. So I asked it, okay, can you rewrite that but tweak it in this way? And then it output 1 version. I was not expecting it to lose track of my request that quickly. And this is when I realized just how much of a goldfish memory that ChatGPT has. And I also tried to use it for roleplay. That's something I often hear people say that ChatGPT does well. The first and only time I really tried it in this way, I basically told it to roleplay a friend that we were meeting over coffee after not having seen each other for a while. And I could tell after like 2 or 3 replies that I was just getting vanilla ChatGPT, and it had kind of lost track of the situation that I had asked it to put itself in. Now, more recently, I've developed a second use case for it, and explaining this is going to seem like some random story, but I promise you this is relevant to why I was blown away on February 8th. So like most of you, I'm in several group chats, and one of the group chats that I'm in has someone in it who can't speak English. We're gonna call her Genevieve for my English-speaking friends, but in French it's pronounced Geneviève. So I often jump into this chat when I'm really excited to talk about something. And yes, I am bilingual, but I'm more fluent in English. So slowing down my thoughts to rethink them in French so that Geneviève could even understand what I'm talking about is honestly too much effort. However, I realized that opening an AI console and saying, translate this in French for me, and then ranting my excited rant in English, that is perfectly reasonable. So whenever I take a moment to even think to do this, I just open an AI tool and ask a bot to translate my excited rant into French so that Geneviève can read it. Now, fast forward to February 8th, I realized that Google Bard, now renamed Gemini, is finally available in Canada. I've been waiting for this since, I think it was released in September, something like that. No, March 2023. This has been available for a while. This is why it feels like I've had my eye on it forever. So obviously, once I see that it's available, I'm super eager to try it out. So I open up a new session, and the first question I ask it is, what can you tell me about hypernovelty? This is a topic that's been on my mind for a while. And Gemini tells me that there is an evolutionary definition, and there's also a musical definition. And then it said, given the date of your request, you probably mean the evolutionary version. The fact that it used the date of my request as additional context blew me away, honestly. It blew me away so much that I immediately switched to aforementioned chat where Genevieve is to talk about it. And after sharing the screenshot of Gemini using the current date as additional context for my question, I realized, hey, I can have it translate into French. And I wanted to do this meta thing where I wanted it to translate a sentence about translation. And I forget exactly what I worded, but Gemini then told me, I'm not sure what you're asking me to translate. Do you want me to translate what I just told you about hypernovelty in French? Compare that to my story from earlier about ChatGPT immediately forgetting that I want 3 versions of my video description. I'm used to talking with a goldfish, so I thought that the sentence that I had written was self-contained. But rereading it, it is ambiguous what I was asking for if you think that I'm still talking about hypernovelty. And the fact that it can actually hold a conversational thread is such a subtle yet game-changing change. I've tried to make it change the subject, and even then it will acknowledge the subject that it's moving on from before asking you what you want to talk about or whatever. As a matter of fact, I've found that the most convenient way to change the topic with Gemini is to start a new session. This is still during the day on February 8th, right? And come evening time, I was impressed enough that I thought to try something that I never trusted ChatGPT enough to even try. So I honestly don't know what the results would be. I don't care enough to try. I opened up a Gemini session and I basically said, find me some recipes with the things that I had in my fridge at the time that take under half an hour to do, including prep. And I must say, the results that it got me had me consider cooking. Ultimately, no, fuck doing the dishes, I just put something in the oven. But the answer was enticing enough. So in essence, Google Gemini directly addresses my biggest gripe with ChatGPT. And it's funny too, because over the last year, I've heard several people who I know are technologically literate enough to know what they're talking about when they talk about AI. And I heard these people say that researching with AI is better than using Google. And it blew my mind because I'm like, are y'all using the same thing I am? And no, there's no shot. For sure they were talking about Google Bard. Its ability to hold a conversational thread makes it an excellent brainstorming partner. And for the same reason, it also makes it an excellent research assistant. And it's funny too, because you can actually ask it some vague ass stupid question like I did with hypernovelty. And if your intent is actually more specific than that, it will help you guide it to the specific thing that you want it to write. Now, before I let you go, I want to cover some caveats. I will start with the least important of the two. It goes without saying that Google Gemini is subject to the politics of California. And I did run into an incident where it refused to answer a question. It's funny too, because when it refused to answer, I reread the question and I kind of understood why it thought that my question was advancing stereotypes, which of course that's why it's going to refuse to answer. So once I realized what it thought I meant, I just told it, oh, I get what you mean, but I meant my question in this way because I just want a visual metaphor as an educational tool. And then it just answered my question. Now, the second caveat will get more targeted as I continue, but the general concern is valid. I wouldn't use Gemini for anything I wouldn't be comfortable doing in front of a Google employee. Now, that must leave some things, right? Right? There's not a single thing that you would feel comfortable doing in front of a Google employee? Is it really just burning jet fuel and melting steel for you? Or the modern equivalents thereof? You don't have any hobbies, things you want to learn, projects you want to work on? To flip this on myself, there are absolutely some things that I would never use Gemini for, or any AI for that matter. The state of AI as it is more like the help. And for whatever you would trust the help to help you write, AI can be a super valuable tool to help you write that thing in a way that will leave you more time to do the things that you wouldn't do with AI. I didn't trust AI to write this script for this video. It contributed nothing. As a matter of fact, I tried to use AI to help me come up with the conclusion for this video, and no, fuck. But you better believe AI wrote the description under this video. Whatever's down there right now is a mishmash of 3 versions of a video about this for my YouTube channel. So yeah, for the people for whom that last bit might be more relevant for, I just want to say, should you choose to not use this tool, you have no idea what you're forfeiting. And I really hope you have a good reason for it. Bye!